Welcome to the Who's Left podcast, a show about Indiana politics, history, and culture from an unapologetically leftist perspective. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and I'm recording from Bloomington. You know, we speak frequently on this program about the decline of rural and small town Indiana, decline in good paying jobs, decline in opportunity, decline in public services, decline in population. One can lead to another and another in a vicious spiral. State House District 33 has not been spared. This predominantly rural district extends from eastern Delaware County, just outside Muncie, to the Ohio state line and includes the communities of Portland, Winchester, and Hartford City. John Bartlett has seen it all unfold. Having grown up and spent his whole life in the area, Bartlett stands in contrast to the conservative caricature of a Democrat. From planting crops on the family farm to doing his own plumbing, electrical, and mechanical work, this is the kind of guy a lot of soft handed country club Republicans like to cosplay as. Bartlett is making his third attempt to unseat MAGA chud J.D. Prescott in next year's midterm election, and he's my guest this week. In the following conversation, we'll talk about his family's incredibly deep roots in East Central Indiana, the hollowing out of our communities by decades of Republican rule, and the three pillars of his campaign. If you stick around till the end, we'll also get into modular nuclear reactors. Check that. We'll discuss modular nuclear reactors and speak briefly about property taxes. Real quick, before we get to the interview, do please consider supporting Who's Left with a paid subscription. This is an independent media project. I don't paywall content and I don't rely on advertising. Only individuals like you keep this thing going. Maybe I could make more money if I did things differently, but I refuse to gatekeep valuable information in the middle of a political crisis. So please, if you find value in this work, go to who'sleft.us and subscribe at the paid level. It's only $5 a month or $50 a year to help me write more, research more, and organize more. Not ready for a long-term commitment? You can make a one-time contribution on Cash App or Venmo. Links are in the show notes. Me and my old body would like to spend less time on construction and more time constructing a better future for Indiana, but I need your financial support to do so. And look, if that doesn't work for your budget at this time, you can still help by liking and sharing on social media, commenting, leaving reviews. That one especially helps. Providing feedback and forwarding articles to your people. We are building a community of Hoosiers dedicated to making this state and its government work for all of us, not just the elite few. Follow us on Facebook, Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok at Who's Left. And personally, I'm at ScottROG78 on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and Mastodon. Tell the others. Let's build a radically democratic Indiana together. Thanks again. Now, here is my conversation with John Bartlett. John, welcome to the Who's Left podcast.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your having me on. It's anytime I can get in front of people and talk about issues and things, it's a good opportunity to get people to understand what's going on, get them excited about trying to change what the things are that are bad and make positive change for our communities. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's always great to meet new people. So, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to start off with saying I am John E. Bartlett. I'm not the current state representative, John L. Bartlett, who serves down in Indianapolis. I'm running for State House District 33. This will be the third time I've run for the position in 26. Also ran in 22 and in 24. John L. Bartlett and I know each other. We've met and talked. In fact, last year when we went down and filed, we had a brief conversation. It's like, okay, so what do we do if I win and we're both in there? What are we going to do? Because we're going to cause mass chaos. Well, if you know John L. Bartlett, Representative Bartlett, he is African American. And so it's like, well, what are we going to do to differentiate ourselves? And rather than, go off the obvious, It's like, well, we could go off middle initials, but that's not, you know, make too big of a deal. I said, well, I tell you what, John, you're older than me, so you go by senior and I'll go by junior, and everything will be great. And we like that idea. So he's senior and I'm junior. Um,
That's great.
so
Yeah. Much better than, yeah, Rochambeau for it to see who gets to be the John Bartlett and who has to change their name.
right. And I mean, like, so and some of the commonality between us, he's very, he went to worked at Allison for years and years. And that's a GM plant.
Mhm.
And my father was a 35-year GM man, worked at Chevy transmission up in Muncie, worked at Delco Battery in Muncie, worked at Marion at the what was Fisher Body and whatever they became later, but it's still a
Okay,
GM
yeah.
plant. So the union uh, the union blood runs deep, and in fact, when I get up in front of unions and I talk, it's like, so what kind of cars do you drive? It's like, well, between me and my four kids, we have seven vehicles, and six of the seven have Chevy bow ties or are a cousin. The only one that doesn't is my 51 Studebaker. So, that, and I can guarantee that was made with UAW labor. So, I live up by Muncie. I shouldn't say by Muncie, near Muncie in Hartford City. I live on a 40-acre farm that my grandparents bought back in 1952. Um,
Oh,
I,
wow.
s- I still live on their 40 acres. We don't farm it anymore per se. We rent out the ground. But I was raised. We raised cattle. We had hogs every now and then. Currently, we have chickens and ducks. But I did a lot of farming. I know a lot of spent a lot of hours in a hayfield. Um, but we did the crops. We did, and when you raised on a farm, I say, if you're raised on a farm, carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, auto
You
mechanics.
gotta do everything.
You
Yeah.
got to do everything because you don't have money to hire all that done. So I know how to do all that stuff. So that's kind of me. I still do probably 75% of my own auto work. And carpentry and plumbing and stuff. I typically don't hire that stuff done. So yeah, so I grew up in Greene Township of Randolph County, which is right in the corner there of Randolph County, and I had a Ridgeville address. I had a Ridgeville address, which is over there in Franklin Township. I had a Red Key phone, which is just north into Jay County, and with Red Key. I went to Monroe Central School, which if you go down to Monroe and you've got those, it was between Parker City and farmland. And I grew up 2 miles from Albany, which is that area that straddles Delaware and Niles Township in Delaware County. So I truly, and then we farmed up here in Blackford County. So I truly grew up in four of the five counties that
So you know the district well.
I know the district really well. And just more than that, like my ancestors, because I do the genealogy, my ancestors pioneered this three of the four counties here. Um, I mean, like I can go back and I can show you in the cemeteries. If I take you back to the old sections of the cemeteries, I can probably tell you how I'm
Yeah.
related to most of the people buried under those tombstones. Um, so we've been here a long time, and this is home. I've got deep roots here. Um, I
Yeah.
live up here with my wife. We had four kids. They're all adults now. Um, I've got my youngest is 23. Yeah, 23. And my oldest is 31. We have our newest member. He just turned a year old, but we've got a grandson who just left here a little bit ago. So, um, and
Oh,
so,
hey, congratulations.
thank you. He's the pride and joy right now, Mr. Take It Apart. So, um,
Well, it sounds like you're well prepared to put things back together after, Hurricane one-year-old goes through.
Oh yeah, we're there. That's where we are. So that's kind of me. I work in IT for a Fortune 500 company in security. Um, we do locks and exit devices and things like that. So it's a big company. I work in IT. I work a lot from home now because I support all of our users who are remote working in the entire lower 48. Um, and I've been with the company through mergers and acquisitions and all the things that businesses do. I've been with the company now 32 years. So I've been there a 31 years, sorry. Uh, been there a long time. Um, and I've
Yeah,
just,
so
I've,
between being in your area there,
mhm.
um, and living in all those counties and spending your time in East Central Indiana there, and um, being at the same job for many years, I there's definitely this like theme of rootedness.
Yes, very much, very much. This is home. I matriculated through Indiana University. I got a 4-year degree there in history and political science, and I did a year of law school, which law school was not for me. The district, I explained to you where the district is and where I grew up in it. The district is exceedingly rural. Um, Portland
Hmm.
is our biggest municipality at 5,800 people, and Hartford City has 5,400 people. Winchester has 4,800 people, and we go down from there. Um, Albany and
So
Dunkirk.
this is small town Indiana, like right out of the central Hollywood stereotype almost.
Exactly, exactly. The movie Hoosiers, which we'll come back to when we're
Mm,
talking some other stuff. The movie Hoosiers, that is in that is where I live. Um, so it's a very small, a lot of fields, a lot of farmers, a lot of small town people, um, and what we have seen in the last 25 years, predominantly with the takeover of our legislature and stuff with the supermajority um,
yeah.
of Republicans, is we've lost a lot. Like when I started going campaigning, and I mean I was going into towns I haven't frequented some of these towns in a long time. I hadn't been in downtown Parker City in forever. Um, hadn't been in downtown Modoc in forever. But when I was in these places, and it's like the grocery store is gone, the hardware store is gone.
Yeah.
The they're down to a Dollar General and a convenience store and
Mhm.
maybe a
Mhm.
restaurant. Um, the post office and a bar. And that's what these towns are down to. And it's like, what happened to these places? And you know, I'm when you look at some of this, the population of Blackford County since 1980, when I was growing up there, was at 16,000 people, and we're now down to under 12,000 people. We've lost a quarter of
My.
our population. Randolph County has lost 20% of its population in that period of time. And the businesses have dried up, they've left, and I just okay, what's going on? Why is all this happening to all of these people? And even Muncie isn't Delaware County is in the district, some of it,
Mhm.
and it isn't even holding where it should with our um, where we should be with our population growth. And you go back and you look at some of the population numbers over the last 30 years, our population growth 90 what is it 96%, 95% of it has been in 7 counties, the 5 around Indianapolis,
Yep.
the one
Yep.
bordering Louisville and Fort Wayne. That's it. That's where, and the rest of it, the minuscule population growth. And we can't keep our businesses, we can't keep our doctors, we can't keep anything going in our counties with this going on. And it's our our population is dwindling to the point we can't get good jobs. Blackford County and
Yeah.
Randolph County are among the poorest counties in the state. Um, and we are hurting so bad out here that we need to figure out how to spark economic growth to stop the the loss, the population loss, and everything else. The policies that this Republican supermajority has been putting forward over the last 30 years has done nothing to help us to bolster our
Hmm.
economies. And people seem to like it. And, well, they don't like it, but they keep voting against their interests. And this is where I am. I'm trying to go out there and present an alternative, pointing out what's wrong and giving them an option on how to fix things. So,
Yeah. So I mean, this story is familiar, I think, to a lot of folks in Indiana and across the heartland in general. You know, towns maybe 40 years ago, they had, cute little downtowns or whatever. There were shops, there were independent small businesses. Maybe there's a local industry or something packed up, ship those jobs off to China or whatever, or to Mexico to save money. Maybe Walmart or whatever comes in, and uh, small businesses close up because they can't compete. And then it starts this sort of downward spiral as these small businesses compete. Then, you don't have any amenities and people don't want to come in and move in, and there's like nothing to do here. There's no opportunity, so people move away. And it's once you get pulled down into that death spiral, how do you get out? And certainly, in Indiana, it's been Republican policy, like you said, that has been um, paving the way for those conditions for most of the last couple decades.
right. And I mean, it just keeps getting worse. So, I mean, from my standpoint, I've got three main things that I feel we should change our focus on, and we could build the economies of our local small rural areas. And the first thing is that education. Okay. When I'm talking about when I'm talking about education, and we'll get more into it in a few minutes. But first of all, I mean, like, we were 47th. I haven't seen the newest numbers, but we were 47th in the percentage of our population that has a a college education. We're 40th in the percentage
Yeah.
of our population who has a high school diploma. Okay. You can't keep factories going. You can't even keep factory, even though the bulk of the workers out there will not have a college education. But you still have to have the engineers, process engineers and stuff that have to have a college education to keep that factory running. And you cannot have a factory without people with a college education. We need to build on that. We need to increase the abilities of our universities and retain those people
Yeah.
in Indiana. We need to increase the abilities of our high school educator people so that they have the abilities to go in and work in jobs. If you don't have an educated workforce, a company is not going to locate its business here. Period.
And Republicans have been doing quite the opposite of investing in education. They've been taking an axe to education at all levels in the state, from pre-K up through the universities. We've
Well,
been tracking that a lot here on Who's Left, and it is. devastating. Um,
Braun's
and I
Braun's
think with
gutting
cuts from yeah.
Braun's gutting of IU and Purdue and Ball State and stuff. I how we can have such a pardon my saying this, but how we can have such a dumbed down workforce that we are producing in Indiana and expect economic progress is beyond me. And again, I'll come back to education because it's huge. The district has a big issue right now in education, and I think it's a winning issue for me in 26. So
Well, let's go there because I think are you talking about the Union School District
I
or
am
the
talking about
Union
Union
School Corp?
School.
Yeah, because I saw that's yeah, that's in your district, and go ahead and recount re
So Union School Corporation is in the southern part of Randolph County. It's a little town called Modoc. Modoc has population 157. The neighboring town that also covers the school district is Lasantville. Lasantville has a population of 217. Teeny tiny little school. They graduate about 25 kids a year with the graduating class. Um, they have right at estimated 300 kids every year enrolled in the school district. The thing with Modoc, or with Modoc supplies Union School the building. There's one building that houses everything for the school district from the K through 12. I think there's a pre-K there now. Um, they house the administration,
mhm.
the superintendent, and all of it is there in one building. The town of Modoc supplies them with water and sewage. They're the biggest customer. So the story, it's kind of a long and story, so you can do with this what you want. But so the story is that after the election, J.D. Prescott, who's the state representative I'm running against, and he called the school district and asked, or I'm sorry, the town, and asked, if you didn't have that school there, what would it do to people's water bills? And Modoc just went through a major water and sewage upgrade. So they're still paying off the
Mm,
loans for all that. And the town board president did a quick calculation. He said, the people's water and sewage bills would go up. We would have to go up $40 a month, which is a lot of money for people who are as poor as the people in Modoc. So then he proceeded to, after a few months, he called. Well, there was a bill. I think it was 1461, maybe. I don't remember what the bill number was. That proposed to close
yeah.
IPS, and there were like 5 school districts, and it was one of them. Um,
Yes, yes, I
okay,
remember that.
and that one failed. It didn't make it out of committee. So then he called. Prescott called um, 2 of the school board members and said, um, "I need you." Well, let me back up a step. So the way that this school district has been able to survive, because they've had money problems, the way that the school district was able to survive was back in 2017. They signed a contract with this, essentially what's a charter school, but they
Yeah,
administer they administer an online school, uh, and they've
yeah,
amassed like
yeah. It's a
70.
virtual public school, right?
Right, they've amassed like 7,500 kids enrolled in the school statewide. And
Mhm.
a lot of the kids that are enrolled in this school are are special needs. They have IEPs, which
Yeah.
if the viewers don't know what that is, that's an individualized education plan. So they're special needs. It's the accommodations that the state has to make for, or that the school has to make for them by state law. so that they can succeed. Um, my kid, two of my kids are autistic, and they both had IEPs, and I mean, it's what got them through. One of them has a college degree now, but wouldn't be there
Yeah.
without the IEPs. So Modoc, uh, Modoc, Lasantville, these kids had significant portion of just the general population that had special needs. But because they're so small, the kids who needed AP classes, advanced placement, college credit, calculus, whatever,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
couldn't offer that. So they would go to other school districts and utilize those. So they had a lot of kids leaving the district, but they also brought in a lot of kids. They brought in 2 buses a day from Muncie of kids who had IEPs because they could cater to that. And with this online schooling, they had a lot of kids joining statewide. And so they contracted with the virtual school, and they've been very successful at paying everything off and making money and giving their teachers adequate pay raises, which very few other districts in the state have been able to do. They've been able to do things that they couldn't have been able to do otherwise. So JD Prescott calls and says, "You're going to give up that school, or we're going to close you, the virtual part, or we're going to close you." And like, we don't have to. We've signed a contract. We're good. We're doing fine. And JD said, "You got until like the end of the week or whatever." And so they scheduled a
Gee,
meeting
that
with,
sounds like a mob shakedown.
well, it really was, because then they had Scott Alexander, who's the state rep or state senator for Randolph and Delaware County, and
Yeah.
Prescott come in, and they had a meeting with the school board, and it got very testy because they basically said,
Mm.
"You guys don't have the test scores to stay open. You guys have the worst test scores in the state." And it's like, all of our kids, like 60% of our kids have IEPs. We can't, you can't expect kids with IEPs to pass the tests. My two kids never passed a standardized test. So, um, and basically they said, "Well, you've got until next week to figure this out." Well, they went away, and then on Monday, this was on a Friday, on Monday they came in, and Prescott, who sits on House Ways and Means, puts this amendment into the property tax bill to close
Yeah.
the school district by the end of 2020, or the end of the 26-27 school year, banning them from doing any sort of contractual anything um, after after July 1st of this year. So um, this is where it is, and there was no discussion on it. They pulled
Right.
the decision out from the school. They just put it in the bill. They ramrodded it through. It passed. No discussion. The Democrats came in both houses and asked to discuss it, and there was no discussion on it. They just ramrodded it through. So now this is where we are with it. Um, and they filed suit. The school district filed suit, and the lawsuit has gotten a first hearing, and basically they had to put it. It's not an injunction. I can't think what it's called. Um, but there is a formal stoppage of the contractual part of it right now, because basically the teacher's contract was up on June 30th. And had they not been able to
Uh,
contract any business after July 1st, they wouldn't have a teacher's contract. They wouldn't be able to supply teachers. They wouldn't be able to supply cafeteria food or buses or anything that a school needs to operate. So they
yeah.
put a stop to that. And now the next thing comes in, and we're waiting on the next date to do that. So me, I get a phone call right on Monday night after they stuck this amendment on and put the amendment into that House bill. I get this little text message from somebody I've never met before, but the school board member saying, "Can you help us? What do you need?" And so I got on. I went to their school board meetings. I went down to the Red for Ed Day. We all wore blue because blue's the school colors, royal blue. And we went down and got them in front of like the news cameras. I got them in front of
Yep.
the appropriate Democratic people, and these are all Republican. I mean, the people are all Republicans, and they're furious. And so
Yeah.
as I'm getting
Yeah.
all these people in front of them, they love me now because I'm actually standing up and I'm helping them. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but damn it, it's what's right. You know?
That's what people want. They want somebody to fight for them. And look, you got at something I think really early in that when you're talking about the school basically subsidizing the water system for the whole town, right? And it's a really good illustration of how so many of these small towns have been gutted when things like schools and things like rural hospitals close because they're also major employers in their areas. They're drivers of economic activity. They, these are good middle class jobs largely that help sustain small businesses in communities. And when all that stuff gets closed by Republican policy, by Republican legislators, screwing their own constituents, their own voters, you see it happen again and again.
Going back to Hoosiers, the movie Hoosiers, okay? When you
Yeah.
go in and you watch that movie and they're all gathered around the radio to listen to the basketball game. I don't know if, but or they go to the diner and they talk at the diner.
Yeah.
I mean, Modoc's got this beautiful little restaurant there that I've eaten at a few times when I'm down there campaigning. And it's just a nice mom and pop shop restaurant. You know, how's your tenderloin? I mean, that's kind of what um, that's kind of the thing in Indiana is, and it's the
Of
heart.
course.
The school is the heart of these communities. Back in the late
Yep.
50s, early 60s, when we started consolidating these schools, I mean, Blackford County lost Rawl, Montpelier lost its high school, and and you know, DeSoto, Albany, Dunkirk, they all lost their high schools, and they all got consolidated into the bigger county schools or the community schools or whatever. When you close these schools, that's the end of the community. That's the beginning of the end of the community. And
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
and so I mean, like I'm down there. I don't want to see Modoc. I don't want to see Little Santville um, close. Huntsville is also another little town. Um, I don't want to see them just become crossroads. It's not that's not good for the people. That's not good for the people that live there. Um, but
Right?
that
You don't want your kids spending like half their day on the bus. Um,
that they're okay. So they're now you bring up the next thing. So part of when they were having that amendment fest, that this one made it. There was
mhm.
another amendment that was proposed. This was Amendment 45. Amendment 42 was an amendment that proposed taking every county in Indiana that has under 50,000 population, okay, and
Yeah.
forcing them to go to one school district in each county, okay? There are some counties that are already there, Blackford County, Jay County, both in my district already being there. But I'm going to share this map with you.
There it
So
is.
the white counties are over 50,000 population. Okay. The
Okay,
green,
yeah, yeah, yeah. We see them. There's northern Indiana. There, the region in South Bend. You got the areas around Indianapolis down here in Bloomington. Then you got the
Kokomo,
the
Marion,
Indiana
Muncie.
side of the greater Louisville area. You got the Evansville area and like Terre Haute and Fort Wayne, Lafayette. Is
Yep.
that Richmond over there? There's
That,
not
that,
a whole there's
yep.
not a whole lot.
Richmond. You got Muncie, Anderson, Kokomo, Marion. Yep. So the green counties are the counties which have already gone to one school district per county. The red ones are all the ones that are under 50,000 that would have to consolidate into one school district.
And
That's a
that just at a glance, that is like easily twice as many counties as have already done this. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's a lot of counties. I mean, if you go up there, Miami County is kind of
that
that.
is most of the state. Yeah,
Yeah, so Miami County is that kind of L, that little L shape up there, like toward the northeast corner. You got the two green ones. That's Huntington and Wabash counties, and then Miami County's
yeah,
that fat L kind of there. So down in the corner of that L is a little town called Converse, and almost dead center in that is Peru. And we have friends that live in Peru. We timed it. Okay, we drove from Converse to Peru when we were driving up there a few weeks ago visiting friends. I was speeding up State Road 19, which is the highway that goes between there. It took us 35 minutes while I was speeding to drive that. So
yeah. So a bus, yeah, with many
add 40
stops.
stops. Add 40 stops. Okay, you're talking an hour and a half to 2 hour bus ride one way each day for some of those kids. Okay, now I brought this up to I brought this up in a town hall here that Prescott had a couple weeks ago, and it's like, what is? How do you feel on this? And Prescott said, "Oh well, here's the thing: we're not necessarily looking at one high school per county. We just want things to run more efficiently. We want to save money." And I'm just like, okay, JD, is how do you think that you're going to save money unless you consolidate the schools down? You just combining under one set of school board and superintendent isn't going to save you much money at all. You're going to have to consolidate schools.
Uh, well, and that it's another thing. Like these schools, they belong to those communities. Those communities paid in with their taxes for years and years and years and years to own those buildings and all the infrastructure and everything that goes along with them. And then if the state comes in and says you're closed down, then you've got this like worthless husk of a building. God knows what they're going to do with it. Um, and all of this, mind you, that they're claiming poverty while managing to find almost $500 million for vouchers for unaccountable charter schools and for private schools that are teaching who knows what.
Yeah, and okay, so that the money thing is the only thing that makes sense as to why Prescott and Alexander are driving this. Because the second largest virtual school is run by Clarksville down by Louisville. The owner of
Yes.
the owner of that is Tony Bennett's wife. Now, you connect the dots.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
Tony Bennett, I understand is a former um, state superintendent, both
right.
here and in Florida. Um, and yeah, he's got financial
Destroyed
ties
education.
to yes,
Destroyed
real
education.
hatchet man, who has connections to private interests, right? That profit from the selling off of, the stripping and selling of the people's community held goods for parts.
Right. So the other thing to say talk for me to talk about on education was, and I need to rerun the numbers this year. I'm not going to present the numbers right now, but I did the numbers for my district working off of the ICPE, the Indiana Coalition for Public Education. There's a
Yeah.
calculator thing on there where you can go through and you can look to see what your school district should have had if they would have had without vouchers and stuff. And I ran the numbers and I how much the district lost to voucher money. Because the thing is even though we have we have one private school in the entire district that takes voucher money, okay, the rest of Delaware County has some, but they're not in the district. They're in Muncie. They're Catholic schools and uh, but we have one in
Right.
Jay
So
County,
yeah,
and the dollars that all of these schools lost to it is just phenomenal. I mean, the counties in the school law, the county schools in the district lost something like $12 million to the vouchers, versus what came
which
into.
I assume, yeah, would have been plenty to keep this school corporation up and running.
Yes, and give the teachers a nice fat pay raise, which they aptly deserve. But you know, um, so I need to run the numbers again. I'm trying to work on that, but there's one private school in the entire legislative district, and it only has
Yeah.
160 some odd kids in it. Most of the two of the counties don't have any private schools in them whatsoever, and it's just ridiculous. Um, and so I know teachers who teach at that school, and this is another thing that upsets me with the union school thing, is that, oh well, they don't have
Yeah.
test scores. Well, those virtual schools sometimes, or not virtual, the private schools take the tests at times, the standardized tests, but they never publish. And the reason why, after talking to teachers there, is that they would have worse scores than what we're talking about at in union school corp, because
Yeah, well, not to mention they can pick and choose their students, right? If they think some kids are not up to snuff or are going to like take their test scores down, they can say, "Sorry, we can't help you." Meanwhile, public schools are providing a public service and serve everybody.
right, exactly. But here's the deal. They don't, I mean, who they're picking and choosing is ridiculous because, like, the what's the military entrance exam, the APGAR or something like that, I can't think what it's called, there's a military entrance exam that you have to
Yeah,
take just to enlist in the military, okay? They
yeah,
had I don't they told me how many kids they had. It was like in the 30s, 20s or 30s of the kids took this test to go into the military. You have to score a
yeah,
31 out of 100 on the test. 31 out of 100. And we're not talking like crazy questions. We're not talking about, sick algebra
right,
stuff. We're talking about like I he puts 3 quarts into a gallon jug. How full is the gallon
yeah.
jug? Okay? They had 2 out of the 30 pass the test. 2
Oh
kids out
my.
of the 30 passed the test. Whatever. I just
It's yeah. No, you're right. No, it's never been about performance. It's been about breaking the
dollars.
backs of teachers unions and serving um their donors who profit from some of these private
Right.
uh schools, these charters. Yeah, it's gross. So like obviously as a education schools, like we said, are so central to these communities. Obviously, this has been a big topic. But what else is on the minds of the folks in the 33rd?
Well, right now, after that stuff that came out, what was it, last week or the week before, with the 12 hospitals on that are that with the Medicaid dollars getting pulled out of the big beautiful bill and all that.
Yes.
So right now, 2 of the 12 hospitals are in this district. Okay, there's one in Winchester, there's one in Portland. They're both on there.
Yeah.
And the third one that is in neighboring Decatur. Okay, that's Adams County. So if that comes to fruition and all 12 of those get closed, those 3 get closed, there will be 0 hospitals. You've got 3 right now, but you will have 0 hospitals in the 100-mile spans of the Ohio border counties from Fort Wayne to Richmond. That's 100 miles.
Jeez, yeah. So, wow. Don't have a medical emergency if you live there, basically, right?
Right.
You're on your own.
Blackford County in the fall of 23 lost its hospital, which is particularly sticky to me because my aunt worked there as head of X-ray for 35 years. She fought in the early 80s and convinced the board to buy the first mammogram machine in the region in the early 80s. I don't even know how many people's lives she saved at that hospital by doing that. But the
Yeah,
hospital,
wow.
they still have the radiology, they still have labs and a couple of other like doctor's offices, but they don't have an ER, they don't have inpatient. And so what that does is that takes your ambulances. It takes your ambulances and makes your ambulances out of county more because we're going to Muncie, we're going to Bluffton, we're going to Marion, we're going to Portland. Okay. So those ambulances are out more. A friend of mine had a heart attack a couple days before Christmas. The ambulances were out of town. He got in his car and he drove himself to Muncie while having a heart attack to ER. Okay. That's what that does.
Jeez. Yeah,
That's
that's
what that does to you. And now we're talking about 0 hospitals in the entire district, whereas 23 we had 3.
with these bills. Republicans in Washington and Indianapolis, they like to talk about the bottom lines and the numbers on spreadsheets, but and when it gets down to it, yeah, we're talking about real human lives at stake. They view the things that keep communities and keep people alive as a drag, as a cost, and not as an investment in people.
And I mean, we've had Medicaid problems. We like if you remember last year we came up with the $1 billion Medicaid shortfall. And where
Yeah.
we in the budget we lost $1 billion. Well, 3/4 of that was because of fraudulent billings by the big 5. What should we say here? The nonprofit healthcare corporations.
Yes, yeah, the big hospital health
Yep,
groups, right?
right.
Uh, right. Yeah,
Which are
exactly.
driving up our
And
cost to Medicaid, but the fraudulent billings of 3/4 of $1 billion, and our attorney general would rather go after a 10-year-old rape victim than prosecute $750 million in fraud.
and yeah, again, follow the money, right? Like those big hospital and healthcare systems, they have lobbyists. They make political donations,
And
their trade groups.
and we've got all of
Yeah.
these people. We've got all these people. You know, Fortunately, we do have border counties, but they can go over to the hospitals in Ohio and get their surgeries and stuff a third off, a third less than what they would pay here because the healthcare corporations have nothing to keep them in check. And that's a second major issue that I want to get fixed is to get the cost of healthcare down because when a business looks to locate here, since they're self-funding a lot of their healthcare, they don't want to pay a third more than what they would in other states. So why would they come
No,
here?
no, it's silly. Why would you? Yeah.
So that's number 2. A third thing I think that we really need to get fixed is infrastructure. And for me, coming into this meeting tonight, like we talked before you got the thing rolling, is we do not have a sufficient rural broadband solution. We need to be pulling fiber optic lines everywhere and putting them into every house. And if you do that, the people that are concentrated around Carmel and Fishers and Greenwood and all, the people that are focused there that are now working from home since they can because of the pandemic. And that was my
Right.
primary thing in 2020, was making it so that my workforce could work from home. They could work from cornfields just as easily as they can work from cul-de-sacs.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was a good hunk of money dedicated precisely to just this in the Inflation Reduction Act passed by the Biden administration, and since Trump too has taken back the White House, they've ended all of those programs.
They've
And
ended many of
the
them.
state's already struggling. They're not going to be able to make that up, right?
Right. The money that was distributed has unfortunately been sunk into cell towers, which, trying to upgrade to 5G, but you can't get 5G out here because they don't want to pull I mean, there's no incentive for them to put 5G out here. You
Right,
have
they're
to.
serving a very small population. Yeah, it's not in their financial interest, and that's why relying on the market to do everything, which is like Republican gospel, it doesn't serve people well.
The FDR and the New Deal. I mean, like I said, I do the genealogy. I've read journals and things from people, my ancestors who lived in the 30s and 40s without electricity until
Yeah.
until FDR pulled it into their houses. So, and then we've got the whole infrastructure of our roads. And if we're not talking about our roads, um, and what they want to do with this damn toll road initiative, where they want to make every single interstate in the state a toll road. And even though, Prescott can say, "Oh, well, that's not exactly what we're doing. We just authorized him to pick and choose," and it's like, but that's not what he asked for. That's not what you authorized him, and then he went to the federal government and asked them to do that. So, and it's like, don't you
And
understand?
this is brawn out on a limb, right? I mean, this is Indiana is the only state to have this. We just passed it. Yeah, like and like JD says, yeah, technically this bill isn't authorizing them to, or it doesn't begin enforcing tolls, but it gives the governor the ability to.
Right.
And again, every interstate in the state.
I asked him, why did you vote for this? Well, we don't have any interstates running through the district. I'm like, okay, so Hartford City is close enough to I-69. We're like 10 minutes away from
Yeah,
I-69. We got a lot of people that commute from here to Fort Wayne, and we got a lot of people who commute from here to Indy. A lot of us have doctors down there, and so you're going to charge them $15 every day to go to work, or $15 to go to a doctor's visit down in Indy or Fort Wayne. Like, and not just that, but go to a store, go to a restaurant, and find me one product in that entire restaurant. If you're talking a soda straw to a an air conditioner or a fan or anything, find me anything in that store
yeah,
or that
yeah,
restaurant that didn't get there on an interstate. And it's like,
yep,
we're going to
yep,
pass that
yeah,
cost off onto us. And they say, well, it's because of the electric
yeah,
cars. We're not
exactly.
collecting gas tax off the electric cars. Well, okay, but you collect the average gas tax of an electric car, um, on an extra fee at license plate time when you buy the license plate, every year. When you pay that,
Right, right.
there's an extra fee that gets tacked on an EV. So
Yeah, which is yeah problematic, kind of in its own right. But yeah, it disincentivizes people to make that switch. But yeah, but also,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that
those are my three
continue. Go
big
ahead.
things:
Yeah.
education, healthcare, and infrastructure. You improve those three things, businesses will coming back here. I don't care what your tax breaks are to businesses. Unless you improve those three things, they're not going to do business here.
It really is in a way all infrastructure, right? Like roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, these things, are the foundation of a modern community. If you don't have those kind of things, no one's going to want to live there. No one's going to want to invest. Yeah, you just fall into that downward spiral.
You know, so probably the last thing that I want to bring up. Well, no, there are two more things I want to bring up that are big. I'll leave I'll leave the huge one for last. So the modular nuclear reactors. Have you discussed modular nuclear reactors on your show yet? Do you guys know what these
We've
are?
not dug in deep to them, but we've heard that this is something that is being explored. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and it's like, but but also, again, there was all this investment in wind and solar that was there for the taking, and then yanked off the table by the Trump administration. And even then, I mean, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Wind and solar are getting cheaper all the time. Nuclear
Well,
is nuclear.
let me explain what modular nuclear reactors are. Okay. So imagine going to a nuclear submarine, which is a smaller nuclear reactor, and dropping that nuclear reactor into a cornfield. They take up about 10 acres, and they want to just come in and start putting these into cornfields. Now, the technology is not yet
So
developed.
that's not very small. I mean, when I'm hearing modular, I'm thinking like the size of like it could fit on like a cargo container or something, a shipping
Yeah,
container.
well,
That 10 acres.
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, 10 acres, and people are complaining about solar panels and windmills going onto their farm ground. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but now we're talking about nuclear reactors. And these modular nuclear reactors, here's the big issue that besides the safety factors, okay, I can go into the safety factors. I talked this last weekend to um, a nuclear physicist who was on a nuclear submarine in the Navy for several years,
Yeah.
and I talked to somebody he works for one of the electric companies in Indiana who's also on. He's like in marketing, and
Yeah.
there are safety issues. Basically, that there aren't enough nuclear physicists that are required by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to actually like be at these things and monitor them, and so we don't even have them. Oh, but we're killing our education system, so we won't have them.
Right.
Okay, so
What could go
basically,
wrong?
uh, you watch The Simpsons. Who runs the nuclear plant?
I was just thinking about like a nuclear radiated field in the Tamaco episode of The Simpsons. Yeah.
Right. So you've got Homer running the nuclear reactors. So I mean, so you got the safety factor. But then like back to the big thing is that these are not these are not um, developed enough to start dropping them out there right now.
This
It's
is new, relatively untested technology. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's not close to being ready. We're looking at 15 to 20 years before the first ones get installed. There's a lot of funding that has to happen to get that going. We've already had 3 states who tried to do this, pull out because it was too expensive. They just started up two new nuclear reactors down in Georgia, full size nuclear reactors down in Georgia. The cost overruns were so high that the other nuclear reactors, commercial nuclear reactors, are backing off and saying, we're not going to go for that. We're going to cut that back. They're so I mean that's full size. These guys are going to cost these modular ones are going to cost a whole lot of money just to develop. So Indiana decides to greenlight this whole thing, and in SB 423, which is now law, they've granted the electric companies to put the cost of developing this stuff onto our electric bills. Okay?
You're paying for their R&D. Yeah,
Yes.
lovely.
And there is no provision in there so that if the uh, project fails, if they're going to reimburse us or anything. If we don't, if something happens. Now, I don't know where the electric companies are in this. The marketing guy said right now they've just started talking about it, and they don't feel like there's a whole lot of interest because they don't want to pay for developing a technology that doesn't come to any sort of fruition in the near future. So I don't know, but I would expect that it's going to be made really attractive to them to allow this to happen. So I'm not.
So, is it like, are we trying to lure this new technology here to be like a sort of a startup industry in Indiana? Is that what they're aiming for, to make a sort of a test case?
They
Uh,
want
where
they
yeah, where does this
they
fit in?
want data centers built here. They want the AI data centers built here, and that's what. And I'm like, I work in IT. What data are you collecting? Hell, I mean, like my Google
So much.
phone, my Google phone tells me on Friday how the traffic is to the place where I go eat lunch on Fridays. I mean,
Well, yeah, no, it's like, massive amounts of data harvested to churn out like worthless AI slop for Facebook. This is what we're um fueling the climate crisis further for.
exactly.
Ridiculousness, ridiculousness. So, John, I don't have you for a whole lot longer here.
Yep. The la-
Um,
the last thing I wanted to talk about was
how?
property taxes, but
Yeah, of course.
I mean, do I have time? If I've got time,
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
okay. So Prescott, well, first of all, SB1, everybody knows the bad stuff about SB1, how it's not helping anybody except for businesses by getting rid of the personal property tax.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
We know all of that. It didn't help anybody. Um, the things people are upset with, it didn't help anybody because of the entire, it didn't even address assessments, which is where the issue lies. Okay. Prescott's
Yeah. I
idea,
mean,
and
houses
he,
are worth what they're worth, and the housing market is such that the cost of homes just keeps going up.
right,
And so your assessed value is going to keep going up, right?
right. I'll come back to assessments in just a second. Okay, because I'll tell you what
Okay.
I want to do. But what Prescott, he proposed a bill, and he's going to put it up again and again and again every time he gets elected or reelected.
Hmm.
He wants to do away with property taxes altogether and replace them with a sales tax on services. So he wants to replace them with like when you go get an oil change or a haircut, have somebody come out and work on your roof or anything like that. He wants to
Right.
create a sales tax on that service by 7%. So many
And that
things
is
wrong
a
with it.
regressive tax.
Oh,
Yeah, that hits working people way more than it hits property owners.
exactly. So that's one issue with it. So another issue with it is the property taxes. Even though we all hate them, Property taxes are the single tax that is resilient to economic downturn. Um, it fluctuates a little bit here and there, but almost guaranteed the localities which use that, and it's only local government and school districts. It's not your state government doesn't get a
Right.
dime of property tax. But that's what pays your fire department, your police department, your ambulances. It's what mows your cemeteries. It's what it does. Your the basic services that we require. Paves a lot of the roads and keeps the snow cleaned off the roads and all that. That's what that pays for. So I asked
Yep.
JD, okay, so how do you make up for that in an economic downturn? His response was, well, I have built into it a rainy day fund so that it will build up money. And then an economic downturn will have money to fall back on. So I looked at him and I said, so in actuality, what you're saying is it's a tax increase to us because we'll be paying more into it. Oh, no, it's not that. Well, then what's the rainy day fund? You're taking in more money than what you need. So it's a tax increase. So then the second thing he says is we'll be bringing in people from out of state to pay this tax. And I look at him like, because so many people come to Indiana to get their oil changed and their haircuts. Um, okay. Um, and then, so the way he's distributing this tax that we take in would be it's on based on it's a formula he has with a county's population and its miles of road. Well, going back to what I said before about the 97% or 97 counties getting like 96% or whatever the
Yeah.
population growth,
Yeah.
it's like, what do you do in 10 years when we fall further and further behind and the big boy counties gained even more? You're going to send more money that way. Oh, well, we'll just readjust the formulas. Okay. Whatever. And I mean, just so many things wrong with this. And I just,
It just all sounds very short sighted.
a little, a lot. Yeah. I mean, so my thing with property taxes, and I've like deeply studied this now for over a year, trying to figure out how to fix what's wrong with property taxes. What I've learned is that back in about 2010, 2011, there was a lawsuit up in Lake County that, and what happened was is that property taxes were distributed weird, and out of that, what happened was is that the way that the property taxes were distributed was unfair to people who had bought their property more recently, and it's like the similar property was getting taxed a lot more than.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court in Indiana said, okay, you need to stop this, and what you need to do is you need to go to a market value rather than a replacement value. It was your property tax was based on replacement value of when you bought the property, and now they said you needed to go to current market value, fair market value is what it's called. So they went through and they put a
Yeah.
fair market value on the property. That's what you had to base your property taxes on. So long about 2015-ish, it was when the legislature got this through and commanded the Department of Local Government Finance, the DLGF, to come up with standards on how to assess property. There's a booklet. You can go on the DLGF website and download it and read it, and it tells you how to do it. I was good in math. There are formulas in there that I don't get. Okay. Um, but somehow or another, that's the rules. It's what they do. And particularly here since the pandemic, what happened? Oh, let me. So every 4 years, they do what's a full assessment, reassessment of your property's worth. And in the ensuing 3 years, they will increase property taxes based on inflation and based on any sort of, you know, building permit or whatever improvements on your property that you've done. So if you add a
Right.
shed, if you add a barn, if you whatever you add, if you build onto your house, they will add that on plus whatever the inflation is. So 2020 happened, and people were in the market to buy property. There wasn't a ton of property to be sold, and that drove the sales of property. The price, supply and demand, drove the selling price of property sky high. Um, then, um, so 21, 22, 23, when those reassessments started happening, and the reassessments were based on that new property assessed value. And this year, the assessment was done in 24 based on the sales in 23, which at which point the market value was still high. 24, the they started coming back down. They peaked and started coming back down. People get their assessments next year should start seeing a reduction in their assessed value. Okay. But
Okay.
this year they still went up. So my thing is, when you're looking at these assessed values, and a full assessment happens every 4 years, personally, I think it should be look at 12 years. Do an average of 12 years. That way, if you get 3 full assessments in there, and if there is a crazy artificial peak like you had happen during COVID,
Yeah.
or going back to 2000, the 2000s, when the housing bubble, burst and all that, and you had that stupid peak there, with the crisis.
Yeah.
Okay, you smooth that out. You smooth out the peaks, and it makes more sense on people's values. They don't go up crazy. Local governments love it because local governments
Yeah,
will,
it's more gradual and steady and
they know
yeah,
what
you
they're
can
going to
count
get.
on
Yeah,
yeah.
that it makes sense to me. And I've talked to other people, and they look at me like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know that they go for the 12 years, but they might go for 8, and that would get them 2 full assessments in there. But you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And really, I mean, it mostly just comes down to we need to put people in the state legislature that advocate for working people, people, God, we didn't talk about people that have to rent, they don't get any relief. Only the big property owners get relief.
Oh,
And,
and the renters pay
we
double.
yeah,
The renters pay double because the renters are at a 2% level instead of a 1% of assessed value. So like, if you homestead, if you own your home that you live in, your homestead gets a 1%
yeah.
cap on its assessed value. Rental property, farm ground, they both get a 2% cap. So they pay double what the 1%ers get.
Yeah, and because inevitably, um, those costs are going to be passed on to renters. Um, so if Hoosiers in the 33rd district want to help you out, want to get on board, or Hoosiers or from across the state or beyond are interested in your campaign, where is the best place to learn more?
I have a website, um, bartlettforindiana.org. And 4 is spelled out FOR, bartlettforindiana.org. The information there, I haven't, is basically, I working, it's under construction again because I'm trying to update for the 2025 craziness that I just spent the last hour and a half talking about.
Well,
um,
right. Well, I mean, you can't count on anything, right? Between these huge cuts, it's like, oh crap, I got to rethink everything I was already thinking about, plus tariffs, up
yeah.
and down and crazy from week to week. Yeah, it's hard to put something in writing, and you have to adjust it
The
every
other
now and
thing
then.
is I'm on Facebook, Bartlett for Indiana. Um, and I'm on Facebook. You can find me there. Just John Bartlett for Indiana State Rep DIST 33. You can find me there. Um, Geez, I love rural internet. It's such an
This
awesome thing.
perfectly illustrated example of why we need to invest in our rural communities and get good broadband out there. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's hard. It's hard
it's
out there
terrible.
to participate in modern society, which just counts on blazing fast internet as a like a prerequisite to do almost anything.
Yeah.
Well, John, I do appreciate you being here. Interesting, fascinating to get to learn about you and your district, and can't wait to have you back. I'm sure we'll have another chance to talk here before Election Day 2026
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. In the meantime, I appreciate you being here on the Who's Left podcast with me tonight.
Alright, have fun with the video editing.
Once again, that was John Bartlett, deeply rooted Hoosier and Democrat for State House District 33 in East Central Indiana. Education, healthcare, infrastructure, these form the backbone of our communities, and lack of investment is like bone loss, our small towns hunching over and crumbling without support. The free market will not fix this. Only government has the ability to marshal those resources. So let's quit electing Republicans who are philosophically opposed to government doing much of anything. That's it for now. But I will be back this weekend on Project Next Media Network's YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch streams, where I host Who's Left This Week, Indiana's most thorough Sunday morning news and politics talk show. Come check that out live if you get a chance. It's a lot of fun, if you can call following the news in this timeline fun. But I bring together a diverse group of panelists from the Democratic Socialist left to never Trump conservatives, and we look at the week's headlines from around Indiana and beyond. We'll also take time to examine one big thing, a different deep dive every week. I hope to see you there in the comments, but if you can't make it live, the program will be available as a podcast Sunday afternoon. Thanks again to John Bartlett for his time and for his candidacy. It's more important than ever for left-leaning folks to run for every office, if for no other reason than to let our neighbors know they're not alone. If you've ever thought about doing it yourself, now is a good time. I can put you in touch with people who know how. Finally, I'll ask one last time for you to please consider a paid subscription at whosleft.us, where you'll find everything I've ever published. I rely solely on the generosity of kind patrons like you to make this information available for free to everybody. In addition to the website, you can also find me on Facebook, Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok at Who's Left, or on most other social media sites at ScottROG78, where you can hit me up with feedback, tips, ideas, and concerns. Finally, please forward this show to a friend and have them pass it on. Let's keep building this project and a truly democratic state, one conversation at a time. Until the next one, this has been the Who's Left podcast. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.